February's meeting of the Republic Speaker Series in Greensboro, North Carolina. Featured was Representative Jon Hardister, who represents a district in eastern Guilford County. I have to tell you that, okay, look, I'm always going to be straight with you, my listeners, and my viewers on YouTube. I'm always going to be straight with you. I'm going to call a spade and club a club. Hardister's speech was a little flat and rudderless, I have to tell you. And this meeting was a pretty significant letdown from last month when we had Becky Gray. And my litmus test whenever I evaluate a speaker, because I'm not just going to give you what the speaker said, I'm also going to evaluate them too, because if I just gave you an account of what they said, that would be pretty dull and boring, right? But the prism to which I evaluate a speaker at is I always want to tell them, I always want them to tell me something I didn't know. And if they accomplish that, then I'm always going to say it was a successful speech, presentation, whatever you want to call it. It was a success. Unfortunately for Jon Hardister, I just didn't get that vibe. This was the second time I've seen him speak. The first time was at a Young Republicans gathering back in like September, and all he talked about was the ABC board and how he wants alcohol more readily available, and he thinks that every person under the age of 40 just wants to drink alcohol all the time, which is not the case. Hey, I'm 32, almost 33, and I can't stand the stuff personally of alcohol. Look, now I don't want y'all to come up to me in public and say, "Oh, you don't like Jon Hardister and you're anti-Hardister." You're anti-Hardister. No, that's not the case. Look, I'm a Republican. He's a Republican. We probably agree about 80 to 9% of the time. I would always vote for him if he was on my ballot against anybody else, okay, because he's a Republican, and it's how I vote, okay? But his speech was a little flat. Now, I still have to do my civic duty to try to tell you, give an account of what he said, and try to make some chicken salad out of chicken shish, if you get my drift here. Basically, what he talked about the tax cuts first. And well, first of all, he brought out the John Locke Foundation, these little pocket booklet of facts and things, which is something that Becky Gray talked about a lot too. And just, I don't know, just it's good that he did, but then again, it's like, oh my gosh, tell me something I didn't know, John, really. Talk about the tax cuts and how that they raised the standard deduction, and it goes against the saying that, well, these tax cuts are only for the wealthy, when in reality, raising the standard deduction is more beneficial for lower income working class people, because those blue collar people, they don't tend to itemize their deductions, whereas the wealthy people do, and they just take standard deduction. He talked a little bit about education, said, look, education should not be a one-size-fits-all thing. I agree. Talked about charter schools, and again, how the left likes to put charter schools as education just for the wealthy, which that is not the case at all. According to Hardister, to get into a lot of the state-run charter schools, you have to be low income or you have to have a learning disability. Oh, and these charter schools also, the test scores must meet state standards. If they do not, then the state of North Carolina is going to shut them down. Let's see. Then he talked a little bit about his this dogs in the tap room issue, and he basically said that the Guilford County Health Department came in and said you can't have dogs in the tap rooms. because the health department thinks that tap rooms are like a restaurant, which for pets in restaurants, you can only have pets in a restaurant if they're a service animal, and that's pretty much nationwide kind of thing. But a tap room is more of just an establishment. They serve drinks, and it's more of a gathering spot. It's not a restaurant. And Hardister basically says, look, he's a free market guy, and he says individual businesses should make decisions about this matter and not the government, and I agree with him. And then, let's see. I tried to take as good notes as I could. I'll tell you, one thing that bugs me about Kickback Jacks is next time I need to remember to, a lot of restaurants you go to, they'll have napkins on the table, or they'll at least have, a little napkin that they're still wearing. This is the second time in a row I've been to Kickback Jacks where this meeting takes place, and there's no napkins on my table. And, and if I make an effort, to track down a server, I'm going to miss a couple minutes of the speech. So I guess from now on I can either A, order an entree that I can use a fork, and not worry about my hands getting greasy or messy, or B, bring my own napkins in. I think I'm going to lean with option B, bring my own napkins in next time. Because in January I had fish and chips, and then this February I had a hamburger. And I know it was a bacon cheeseburger, lettuce and tomato and ketchup. I had to tell you, the food there is excellent. Excellent food at Kickback Jacks. Okay, but anyway, back to our talk about Representative Jon Hardister. And that's all I got to say about his talk. We went into question and answer time, and this is sometimes you have a speaker and they're a little dull, but fortunately, the Q&A session is a lot more lively, and that's what happened at the February meeting of the Republic Speakers Series. Went into criminal justice reform, and we had somebody mention that, it cost $45,000 a year to house a prisoner in North Carolina. Whew. Wow. Oh, and if you serve a 50-year prison sentence, the cost to taxpayers is $2.25 million. And Hardister talked a little bit about redistricting. Of course, it was brought up by a member of the audience, not by Hardister, I should mention. He said it's a very tricky situation right now. There are two lawsuits. One's a federal lawsuit against some congressional districts in North Carolina, and those are going to be redrawn, apparently said sometime later this year, towards the end of summer of 2019. And then there's a state lawsuit in the state court about some House and Senate districts of the North Carolina legislature. Hardister hopes that this U.S. Supreme Court, which has a majority of conservative justices, he hopes for intervention by them, but he's not 100% confident on that. He does have a proposal, though, and this is probably the thing I like the most about Hardister. He's a lot of Republicans are their heads are so in the sand on redistricting. Okay, when you mention redistricting reform to a lot of Republicans, they'll just tell you, well, the Democrats controlled the state for 140 years, and they always drew districts. They abused the redistricting process, and they never got caught by the courts. So why should the Republicans comply with the court orders? Because, guess what? The Republicans did not draw fair districts either. Say what? What did Bobby say? The Republicans did not draw fair districts either. Got that? Okay. And don't know what's going to happen in the 2020 election. I mean, the Democrats could come back and regain control of the legislature. They already have control of the governor's bench. They already have control of the court system here in North Carolina. It wouldn't be asking a whole lot for them to get control of the legislature again and control redistricting. And then you have to ask yourself, if that happens, when will the Republicans again be able to control redistricting? So right now, the way redistricting is, you have a political hot potato between the two political parties. If the Republicans are in control, they're going to gerrymander. If the Democrats are in control, they're going to gerrymander. So what Hardister is saying here is, look, we need to reform the redistricting process. We need to create a bipartisan redistricting commission. He wants 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 3 unaffiliateds. Now, when I say 3 unaffiliateds, these are people that are going to be seriously, heavily, hardcore vetted by the General Assembly. Okay, these are not just going to be, 3 people you draw out of a hat. Okay, they're gonna, the General Assembly is going to make sure that these unaffiliateds are, unaffiliated that are, and have a very mixed voting pattern, hopefully. Okay, so you're going to have an 11-person redistricting commission. What's going to happen is they're going to be in charge of all of the redistricting. They're going to draw the U.S. congressional districts as well as your state house and senate districts. And they're going to have three opportunities to get their redistricting plan passed by the General Assembly. If they cannot, if the redistricting, if the independent redistricting commission cannot get their plan passed through the General Assembly after 3 tries, they fail all 3 times, then and only then can the General Assembly come in and go ahead and do whatever the heck they want with redistricting. Okay. And then somebody mentioned that there's a fly in the ointment here. Remember, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, well, it's still going to hold some water here in this redistricting battle. So you're going to end up with, right now, District 1 out in the northeastern part of the state, and District 12 down in the Charlotte area. Even after the 2020 redistricting goes through, you're still... And even if the redistricting reform passes as a law in North Carolina, you're still going to probably have to draw at least 2 minority-majority districts, because that is a federal. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is a federal statute. It's very hard to repeal. Okay, then we talked about some local issues. School construction. A member of the audience asked Representative Hardister, what do you think about this school construction bond that's being floated in the General Assembly? And he says, look, he has a lot of concerns about it. And Hardister made a very good point. And he says, look, the fact of the matter is that Guilford County has not done a good job with keeping up with maintenance of school buildings. And, of course, one thing he didn't say, that actually the News and Record, they were actually having a good day reporting for once. They actually said that apparently Guilford County has like over $1 billion of school infrastructure needs. It's crazy. And then Hardister also mentioned, hey, look, some schools around the state, you have a very mixed bag across the state. You have some schools that are very new, some schools that are very old, some schools that are overcrowded, some schools that are undercrowded. And really, what he proposed was that, how about we privatize the property? If the school districts are not managing the school property, why give them more money to do so, right? Pretty good thing. Okay, and then we had David Gleason ask a question. I bring up this gentleman's name because he is a candidate for chair of the Guilford County Republican Party, their election is going to take place on March 9th, and I hope you will be there. The convention is on Saturday, March 9th, begins at 9 a.m. It is at GTCC, Jamestown campus. I don't have the exact room number, but you go on the Guilford County Republican website, it'll tell you all the information. Okay. But Mr. Gleason mentioned he wanted to know, how can the county GOP in Guilford County be more relevant? And and Hardister mentioned that they really need to keep a headquarters. Right now, the lease is running out on their current headquarters on Gate City Boulevard near I-73, and in April they're going to start meeting in a hotel off of Wendover and I-40. But Hardister says it's very important to have a headquarters, but it's very hard though because the economy is doing very well in real estate. A lot of available property, especially in the commercial sector, is taken. So when you have, high demand for commercial space, you're going to pay higher rent than you would if there was a recession going on. You would have more property available, lower price, right? He also said there needs to be a vice chair whose main job is entirely to get outreach in the business community. Hardister also said there needs to be a vice chair in charge of fundraising, and then you need 2 to 3 people who are in charge of targeting urban voters. One person in charge of targeting minorities, the other person in charge of targeting college students, and then one in charge of targeting young millennial voters, young professionals, whatever you want to call that group, post-college. And they said, look, we need to be encouraged. Yes, we lost a lot of races in 2018, but he said we didn't lose these races by a whole lot. He said the B.J. Barnes race was very close. Treaty Wade only lost by 800 votes. Justin Conrad only kept his seat by like 100 votes, though, so keep that in mind, too. Let's see. Lee Haywood made a statement. He is the chair of District 6, and I gotta tell you, I don't know Lee Haywood very well yet, but I gotta tell you, he, in my opinion, has done a very good job as district chair. He is like everywhere. I go to every single event. I go to as many events as I can. He's like always there. Canada GOP meetings, always there. State meetings, always there. Republic Speaker Series, always there. The guy has done a really good job of putting himself out there. Unfortunately, I am not in his district, and my district chair is MIA. And by the way, if you know where Mr. Zach Kratz, I think is Zach Kotz, something like that. If you know where he is, please let me know. Or call the Unsolved Mysteries hotline at 1-800-65. Oh gosh, I don't know that. Whatever. But yeah, Lee Haywood's always around, but unfortunately, my district chair, never met him, never seen him. But there is a district convention coming up. District 13, which is my district, is going to be on April 6th. The 6th district convention is going to be on April 13th. Okay? And Gay Dillard, who has done a really good job as president of one of the women's clubs here locally, is going to run for district chair. I don't know entirely if I'm going to vote for her yet, but I have a good impression of her. Let's put it that way. Good impression of Mrs. Dillard. But Lee Haywood said, look, you want to win this election, it's not enough just to simply go to GOP meetings or just go to this, luncheon and then go home and think you've accomplished everything, because you haven't. Very good point. And then Lee Haywood also wanted to mention that the precinct meetings for Guilford County are coming up this Saturday, the 23rd at 9 a.m. Be there, be square. It's at the headquarters right there on the Gate City Boulevard, just north of I-73, in the same shopping center as All Pets Considered. Okay? Remember that. Okay? Let's see. Do I have anything else I need to add? Okay. next meeting of the Republic Speaker Series will be on March the 18th. Unless something's changed, always assume the third Monday of the month. Doors open 11:45. The main program starts at about 12:05, 12:10. And the speaker this time, hopefully they'll be a little bit more interesting than Hardister, is Dr. Tim Daughtry. He's a former clinical psychologist, now a conservative writer / speaker, and he's the author of Awaken the Sleeping Giant, How Mainstream Americans Can Beat Liberals at Their Own Game. So I hope to see you there. And remember, let me tell you something else Lee Haywood mentioned about these precinct meetings. You know, if you have any interest in the political process whatsoever and you're a Republican, you absolutely, positively need to go to your precinct meetings, okay? Because this is what Lee Haywood said, this is the starting point for the whole political process over the next 2 years, okay? Remember that. We have a lot going on next 2 years, so please make an effort. If you're in Guilford County, again, this Saturday, 9 a.m., Guilford County headquarters, be there or be square. For the Conservative Pelican, I'm Bobby Crawford. Take care.